Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have back with us Bill Wilson, who's the president of Wilson Financial Group, and we'll be discussing how to create sustainable income. Bill, welcome back to the program.
Well, hey, Mike, how you doing today?
Hey, doing great. And I know that anytime we're talking about income, that's great. I want to hear about income, but let's define what is sustainable income.
Well, my motto of my company is I help people get to retirement, but through retirement. And so, income is lifestyle. Income's everything. And, I share with people that when it comes to retirement income that you truly cannot outlive, you've got to focus on longevity. You've got to focus on market inflation risk. You've got to focus on control of spending and taxes. So, there's some bullet points that kind of goes across my mind when I'm talking about that subject matter. And one, of course, is you build a lifetime income floor. You have have-tos and you got want-tos. The have-tos, housing, food, utilities, insurance, healthcare. They're paid regardless of markets or lifespan, right? So your core would be your Social Security. If you have a pension, some lifetime annuities, that kind of helps build a lifetime income floor. And then, the other thing is, use longevity insurance. There are QLACs. I'm sure you've heard of that before. You have deferred income annuities for that. So you can do immediate incomes. You can do, but you can do those QLACs at a later age to, protect against, into your 90s or beyond. Another area I think about is layering income, over the time instead of locking it all at once. So that means you kind of annuitize in stages. You can combine early income and then late life income. Also adjust for interest rates and life changes. Another area I think about when it comes to strategies is apply a flexible withdrawal strategy, not the 4% rule. That's kind of out the window, especially the volatility we have in the country today. So use guardrails, like maybe small spending adjustments after poor years. Withdraw with cash or bonds during downturns. Another thing I think about is maintain growth to fight inflation. Maybe you got certain lifetime income must keep up with rising costs. So you've got equity exposure for long-term growth. You've got Social Security has COLAs, that's cost of living allowances. You can ladder or increase income annuities. You can delay income start dates. So all of those things kind of help towards sustainable income that if you set it up properly, they'll last. And that's what it's all about when it comes to income on a day in and day out basis, something that's sustainable, reliable, and guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece that a lot of the way that you started off that point is I help people get to retirement, and most people stop there, but you focus on helping them to get through retirement. And I think that a lot of times people have in their mind, I want to retire at this age and have this much money in the bank because I think that should take care of things. Well, that's a big gray area, but that's the day of retirement. How long are you going to live past that? And how much money are you going to need through those years? And is that enough? And I feel like many times, and maybe you've seen this with clients you've worked with, they want to retire at whatever the age is, and they need X number of dollars a month because that's what they told you. But if you really dig in deeper, it's like, well, hey, when you were punching the clock working 40 hours a week, you didn't have as much time to spend money as when you have zero time requirements. And now you are retired, you're going to spend more, travel more, do more fun things, maybe start that, project. How do you help your clients realize how much they're going to need to get through retirement so that sustainable income is actually, going to work for them? Right.
Exactly. I use the perfect analogy of Mount Everest. Obviously our audience, they got a job, they got married, they raised kids, and then they save. And of course, they finally get to the summit, right? They're now at retirement time, but it's getting down that mountain where most people fail. And so having a plan is very, very important to make sure you get through retirement. You got to cover all the areas that certainly are challenging: taxes, inflation, health being one of the key things. You've got to have some kind of plan put together for that to happen.
So, what is the kind of the framework or the process you help your clients go through to make sure they're prepared properly like that? Because I think that a lot of times people hear, like, oh, I need 3,000 a month to pay the bills in retirement. But is that really the case? Because what about increased healthcare? What about inflation? There's some things we cannot control, like taxes and inflation. There's some things that we can control, like budgeting.
Yeah. Well,
How do you work through that?
Yeah, you got your have tos and your want tos. Have tos are things you just have to have every day. You've got housing, right? You got utilities, you got food, you got insurance, you got healthcare, you got basic transportation. Those are have tos. You have to have money set to do those things. And I find that guaranteed products, if it's if it's set up properly, it's basically sized to for non-negotiable costs. So market swings never threaten day-to-day living. So you've got to have investments that will certainly continue to pay in, day out to cover those have tos, and also have some want tos, things you want to do, travel, whatever it might be.
I think if we can envision that plan for getting to whatever age, 147, or whatever age that you're going to plan for, and you put the pencil to paper and have the sustainable income, like, hey, if all things are working together here, you're going to make it to that age and we're going to be just fine. Doesn't that create some pretty powerful peace of mind in the client's mind that you're able to help them with?
Yeah. Well, one thing I always share with people is, if I was selling something, it's sleep insurance, for people not to worry about that. Yeah. And, there's certain layers when it comes to guarantee income sources. You've got your Social Security. That's I always share with people, there's no-so money, there's hope-so money. No-so would be Social Security, would be pensions, it'd be annuities that have income elements to it. Hope-so would be the market. You got your stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds, your ETFs, your unit trust, whatever. But again, those are hope so. If you're going to focus on your retirement to have a sustainable income, you want to focus more on no-so type accounts than hope-so accounts. You got to have hope-so for inflation, but you got to focus on those areas. So I kind of layer it. Social Security is an already guarantee, right? And of course, it's inflation adjusted lifetime income. We would like to have the government kind of consider what inflation really is compared to what they think it is. But then you also have another layer would be your pension-like income from annuities. You can have immediate annuities, deferred income annuities. You can get involved with fixed or fixed index annuities for a later date. Let that compound and grow, and then layer all that in so that you have this income that as you're getting older, you're getting sort of a bump up where your income is increasing to keep up with inflation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that a lot of times people just gloss over many things like that. So talk a little bit more about that phrase you mentioned once, guaranteed. So how can guaranteed financial products be integrated into this retirement plan? Because I think a lot of times people go, oh, well, I'm just going to, keep all my money in the market and it's been doing good. But it does that until it is not doing well. So talk a little bit about the power of guaranteed products.
Well, guarantees reduce market dependence.
Yeah.
You think about that. You're again, that's the hope so part. Obviously, if you got a lot of years, the market's going to do well. I mean, it has its ups and downs, but it's proven through history that if you've got the time on your side, being in the market is great. But there's some essentials you also have to consider. You're no longer forced to sell investments during market downturns. If you have some sustainable guarantee income, you're going to have some ups and downs on your hope so money. But if you've got income that's going to continually come in while that's correcting itself, the market part of it, you're going to be fine. Remaining assets that can stay invested for growth. Again, the growth part is to cover inflation down the road. And of course, you have to consider sequence of returns is reduced. I show an example of two people that are the same age, they have the same money, they get the same return, and whether the market's good or not. One of the things you have to, and my crystal ball is no better than anybody else's, and that will be the day you retire. Will the market be up that year or the market be down that year? And that sequence of return shows one example where the market is up and the other gentleman, the market is down. and they both end the same with money. But as they start to take money out, if that market's going down the same time you're taking a withdrawal, and depending if the market was up or down, let's say, could we have another 2008 where the market is flat for 3 straight years? And what if that was, your time to retire and the market's down and you're now pulling income from that? You could find yourself in trouble where you might run out of money given time. So having guaranteed layers is very, very important. Yes, having money in the market is important to have. Don't get me wrong. But I also use that rule of 100. And this is the basic rule. I'll take the number 100, I'll minus your age. And whatever the difference is, that's the most you should be at risk. Because as you get older, you want to make sure you have sustainable income. It's going to cover all the have-tos you have to have, and of course the want-tos. You could do that to a combination of proper planning.
I think when people hear volatility and inflation, that guaranteed income helps protect against that. Is there a specific, I've heard the number, if I'm thinking correctly, 60-40, certain percent right in the market, a certain percent in bonds. Is there a certain time or percentage of your money that you should start saying, okay, I'm this age, you should now be putting a certain percentage or this percentage of your money in guaranteed products versus the market that are, going to be faced with volatility? Well,
I think there was somebody who had won a Nobel Prize and they talked about the 4% rule. Well, that's kind of out the door. I think the new rule is like about 2.8%. Okay. So, obviously you're going to pull an income stream from those investments. But I think if it's focusing on the have-tos, you want to make sure you've got your nut covered based on that. So as far as percentage, I'd probably go a lower percentage than that just because of the volatility of the market and what it can certainly do to your assets. I mentioned the sequence of return, so I think that's of importance. Fight inflation with growth assets. So you have equities, which are long-term. You've got your Social Security, and you've got other investments it's called TIPS. You've just got a variety of investments that will certainly, some are designed to pay now, and others are designed to come down the road to help towards inflation.
So how often should someone, once you put this plan into place for sustainable income and guaranteed and that split, how often should you sit down and re-review that? Quarterly, 6 months, yearly?
I would say probably yearly. I would look at where things are at. I just sat down with a couple that she's retiring from UPS and has a sizable 401k plan, and they have good income right now through both Social Security and pensions, but this chunk of money is something they want to use for not the want-tos. They got plenty of money for the want-tos. It's going to be for the have-tos, but it's the want-tos that they want to have. They want to do more traveling. So this money is going to be designed to literally build and grow, but it still gives another guarantee income stream for them to take that for trips and things they want to do. So, I guess it really comes back down to where a person's at and what their have-tos are, what they want to accomplish. I'm going to also address health issues and what you should do for. There are investments that certainly the income, if it's joint pay, would be 1.5 times the income they're getting right now, or if it's single pay, it's double that. Those are areas that I would discuss as far as the proper percentage and all that needs to be designed to provide that income stream.
Yeah. It's, I guess the big thing to keep in mind is everyone's different. Everyone has different needs. Everyone has different dates they're going to retire, how long they're going to stay retired, their monthly. I mean, all of that is different. You cannot just have a cookie cutter. You need to have someone that can guide you through the process. And if someone is interested in reaching out and connecting with you to see what it looks like for them, what's the best way they can do that, Bill?
My office number is 480-220-3449. And you can also reach me on my website, which is wilsonfinancialgrp.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you again.
Okay, thanks, Mike. It was good spending some time.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.